All right, so now it's time to calculate the aim direction, and we can do it very, very simply by going to the player now, going to the player base, and inside of here, let's actually make a new function. Let's make a new function called calculate aim direction. And for this function, let me just compile it and let me go back to the event graph. And the place I want to place this, it makes most sense for this look event. This is where we control the mouse movement when we are in game. So this would make more sense to put it here actually after this one. So let me just drag this calculate aim direction and just plug it into here. Now, basically what we want to do is set a float called aim direction. So let's make a new float called aim direction and let's change it into a float variable. Whoops, not integer, float. Compile and save. Now, inside of this here, let's take this aim direction and we simply want to set it. Now, remember what I said before. In multiplayer, you can never set a variable for a client. You need to be on the server to set a variable and then set it to replicate it. You have to set this one to replicate it because the clients need to know at which direction the other players are aiming at, so the animations update correctly for all of the connected clients. So in this, the server needs to replicate that information back to the clients, else the clients will not be able to see at which direction all of the players are aiming, and they will just be looking forward and it's like nothing is happening. So when you set variables and put them to replicate it, you can never set and replicate variables through the client. So it has to run through the server. Now you can see if I write a print string from this, now I will give you a trick to know when you are on the server and when you are on the client. So right now it should print a string automatically when I move my mouse because I have connected it here and it will be connected here. So if I compile now and I click on play and I move my mouse, you can see now when I move my mouse, I'm on the client. You can also see I'm playing as the client up here. So the client can actually run this code. When the client is able to print code, it means this code that you are writing is also running on the client. You can see when I play as the server, actually it's the second client now. Let me change it up here to play as listen server instead. And let me click on play. Now I'm playing as the server, and you can see now it's the server printing the string on the screen. And when I am playing as the client, so let me just play again and take this client now. And you can see the code is now printing as the client. So when you can print a string through the client as well, this means this code is run by both the server and the client and not the server alone. So when we need to set this variable, we have to make sure that we are running on the server. So what we can do again, just like before, take this and say switch has authority, and we're making sure that we're only running this on the server. And if you are the client, you still need to run the code. So if you are the client, you have to run through the server first. So let's go back to the event graph. I'm going to just go back down here. We're going to organize this later. So down here, we can write a custom event and then run this through the server. And I'm going to call it calculate aim direction, and let us run this on the server and being reliable. And I'm going to take this calculate aim direction and connect it to here. Go ahead and compile. Now let's go back to the calculate aim direction and let's run this server calculate aim direction down here. And then we can continue the code. So when you are the client, you are going to go through the server and run this. And this will make sure that as the client, you can never run this one alone. It has to go through the server. Okay, so now for the aim direction, how we can calculate this is first, let's right click and say get control rotation. Now we're getting the rotation for the player controller. And then we can say get actor rotation. So we have the rotation for the player controller and we have the rotation for the actor. Now what we can do to find a middle point, and we need to find this middle point in order to know where the player is aiming, we can take this and say delta and choose this one called delta rotator. And you can plug these in. So it's going through through the player controller rotation and the actor rotation. It's going to find a middle point through this delta rotator. And now let's break it here, break the rotators. And when you break a rotator, you can see the X, Y, and Z. You can also just do it if you right click here and say split struct pin. That's actually the same thing. I just like to split here. So I'm going to write break rotator, and I can see the X, Y, and Z. And for the aim direction, we need the Y. So the Y, you can take it and plug it into here. So now you're actually calculating the aim direction correctly. So you can go ahead and compile and save everything. So now we are ready to apply this to the animation blueprint and make our player having the aim offset work.